All right, hello everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this session, which is all about learning and development trends for 2021 and beyond. This is going to be a very interactive session. This is my third online presentation in 2 days for me, so I've had a busy start to the week. But the other two presentations that I did, one was yesterday morning, and the other one was this morning, and they were both keynote presentations. So I was running that more as a presentation where I was presenting material and stopped for the occasional chat and Q&A and poll, but mostly it was me presenting. And today is going to be quite different. So today, what I want to do is run this very much as an interactive session. So I'll do a little bit of presenting up front just to frame it up so you understand what we're going to be doing today. But the bulk of the session, the bulk of the 45 minutes we've got together is going to be over to you. And we're not going to do it through breakout rooms or anything like that. And I'll tell you how we're going to do it as we go. But let me set some frames up before we get started in that area. So my 3 rules of engagement for all my sessions, and the people who know me know that I always start by going through my basic rules of engagement. I want to give you stuff to think about, maybe give you some different ideas, maybe a different perspective on learning and development. I want you to be really playful and just engage as much as you can, especially today, and you'll see why as we get to that. And I also want you to have some really useful things that you can take away and put into practice, regardless of what your learning and development role is, whether it's a senior role within an organization or a actual trainer or a mentoring coach or something like that. Doesn't matter what your role is. I want to give you some practical actions. And look, the goal is we want to be able to say that we can be better than that old way that learning and development used to work, and was the traditional training room, and we can get a lot better than this. And I know that there are some experienced presenters in the room, and you already know that you can do better than just somebody standing at the front of the room and putting people to sleep by just delivering information. In fact, if I was to characterize the future of learning and development, I reckon it comes down to these 2 things. It's about discovery and about experience. So learners want to discover stuff before they're told it, and they want to have some sort of experiential training. And I've used VR as an example because that's something that's happening in a lot of organizations, but that's not the only way that you can have experiential training. You can have it through case studies and mentoring and shadowing and all those sort of things. So let me just to get the interaction started, let's just do a poll. And I think I've set this poll up here, that I should be able to run this for you. So I'm just asking you, what's your main L&D role? And I've made this fairly broad, and you can see the poll on your screen. So are you a leader in the L&D department in your organization? Are you an HR professional? Are you a senior leader? Are you a team leader, people leader? Or are you actually a practitioner, a trainer, presenter, coach, or other? And if you say other, can you just share in the chat what that role is? Okay, I'm going to leave the poll open for another 2 seconds because I wait till 80% of people have answered, and they've just done that. So let me end the polling and we'll see the results. Okay, so most people here, or the majority of people, I shouldn't say the most people, but the highest one are people who are already practitioners, just like I am. So you're a trainer, presenter, coach. In some way, you're delivering training or you're delivering learning. But it's good to see that there are some L&D people here today. So welcome to you, and also some people in HR. And so the trends that we're going to talk about cover all these areas. So not necessarily just focus on one of these areas. So it'll cover a range of things and you'll see what I mean as we go through these. Okay, so for people who don't know me, because I'm interested to see that there's some people here who I don't recognize, let me give you a little bit about me, not because I want to bore you with my biography, but I want to tell you where I'm coming from when it comes to the whole area of learning and development. So a lot of work that I do is keynote presentations, whether that's in person or online now. So I do a lot of keynote presentations at conferences. I also do small group masterclasses and workshops, and also facilitate. And the facilitations generally around senior leadership teams around future planning. I've worked with a lot of organizations, particularly around Australia and New Zealand, but elsewhere as well. And I think I've been really lucky, I've been really privileged to work with organizations who value learning and development. So people who get me in to run masterclasses for their teams obviously value that, and they're looking at really that they don't just pay lip service to the idea that our people are our biggest asset. And one of the things that I'm really obsessed about is not just to make learning a one-off thing. So you may have come across this research by Brent Peterson and his team at Columbia University, where they looked at the effectiveness of training. So they were looking at the traditional workshop, and when in that case it was in-person training that they were looking at, and they said if you want to make your training maximally effective, then what you do is you spend 25% of your time and effort and resources getting people ready for the training. You'd spend 25% of your time in the training room building their skills, and then you'd spend 50% of the total budget afterwards on the job, in reinforcement, in follow-up material, and so on. So in other words, if you're running a one-day training program, you should be spending a day getting people ready for it, and at least 2 days afterwards, spread out over whatever period of time, to get them to reinforce the ideas and embed them. So that's the first part of it. The second thing they found was when they looked at what organizations were actually doing and how much of their time and budget and money were they spending, they actually found that they'd book a trainer and you'd spend a tiny bit of time getting people ready for that trainer and the training session. They'd spend 85% of their time in the training room, and then when they tick the box and complete the feedback form at the end, they go, oh yeah, you're done, you're trained, you're ready, you're fully skilled, ready to work, right? So there's a real mismatch between what works and what people do in practice. And I've always been obsessed with this, and I've always said, and I even say this to people who book me for keynote presentations, I've always said, let's extend the learning. And it's interesting, in 2020, finally people are getting what extend the learning means. So if somebody books me for a keynote presentation or gets me to come in and run a masterclass for their team, I say, look, afterwards, for the next 3 months, I'm going to run an online presentation every month to build some of the skills. Everyone gets a digital copy of my book, and there's some coaching questions in there that you can run with your team members. There's an online resource center with some additional resources as well. And also for people who book me for online events, I've also created an online course about how to be a better online presenter. And so if you book me for an online event, then you can send that little mini course out to your other presenters, the non-professional speakers, just to help them elevate the level of their skills for presenting online. So I've always been interested in this idea of going, it's got to be more than just a single hit. It's always got to be extended over a period of time. And in the online space, I've helped people like Citrix, who make GoToWebinar. Over the years, they've employed me to run webinars for their clients to help them become better presenters. So these are the sort of things that I run over the years. I wrote a book about 10 years ago called Webinar Smarts. It's out of date and out of print now because the technology's moved on. But again, like I've been doing these online presentations for 10 years now because I'm really obsessed about how do we make learning effective. This last one here I'm particularly proud of. This is Gar Reynolds, who wrote the world's best book about presentation skills. He invited me to write the section about online presentations. This is something that I've really been interested in for a long time. But what I want to do today is not just share my experience and my ideas, because that's useful, and I'm not saying that's not useful, but what I want to share are some research-based trends around learning and development. And I want to do it in a way that's not just me standing here and delivering that information for you. I figured if I start off by saying that the future of learning and development is all about discovery and experience, then it's up to me to give you the opportunity to experience, to do discovery and to have an experience here today. So if you're here live and you're here with me doing this session live, fantastic. I think you'll get a great experience. If you're watching the recording, hello to you, but you're missing out on some of the best part of this, because this is very much going to be about experience as much as it is about me sharing some information about these trends. Okay, so I hope you're okay with that. So this is the way that we're going to do it. So as part of what I do as a futurist, I look into the future workplace, and I looked at, in this case, learning and development trends. So there might be a trend like this one. So this one says that quite a lot of Fortune 500 companies, big companies in the US, have already started using mentoring programs in their workplace. So there's a stat like that, and what I'm doing, what I will be doing, is instead of just presenting that stat like that for you, what I've done is converted that into a multiple choice question. So it might be something like, how many Fortune 500 companies have mentoring programs in place, and I might give you 7%, 17%, 70%, 77. Actually, it wouldn't be 70 and 77. Those are too close. I'll make the numbers far enough apart that you don't have to get the exact number. But that's a sort of multiple choice question. Or the question might be something like 71% of Fortune 500 companies have what in place? And I might say mentoring, online courses, virtual reality, whatever. And again, you have to choose from those multiple choice questions. Okay, now I know that not everyone believes, and you shouldn't believe all the statistics that you see, because it's just one survey, one research thing. But I want to make it quite broad. But yeah, you should be have a healthy skepticism towards some of this some of the statistics. So don't take them just at face value, but use them as a guide. After all, I think it's true that according to Disney and the Brothers Grimm, 6 out of 7 dwarfs are not happy, right? Okay. So here's how we're going to do this. So we're going to do this using an online tool that's going to be a quiz tool. So you'll get the chance to do this quiz. So the way we're going to do it is everyone gets a chance to participate. And so I've got these three little rules, or three little ideas around this in how we're going to run this. So the first one is, let's see how many people we've got. So this is good. We've got about 35 people here, which is fantastic. So the first one is that there's some prizes for this. So I've got some fabulous prizes for you. And there's 3 prizes here. There's my audio CD, The Future of Innovation. There's my book, The Future of Leadership. And there's my other book, Disruption by Design. And when we get to the end of this quiz, there will be 3 winners. And so the physical products. And I'll ask you just to email me if you're one of the winners, email me your postal address, and you'll not only get bragging rights, but you'll also get one of these fabulous prizes. The second thing is that you don't have to take part in this. You can sit back and be an observer, but you'll get so much more value if you take part. I've got everyone on gallery view here. Can I just see a wave or a show of hands if you'd like to take part? So this kind of, I'm looking for some sort of idea of how many people are going to take part. Okay, that's good. I can see quite a few people who've got their video on who are going to take part. If you don't have your video on and you want to take part, that's okay as well. More than happy for you to do that. And the last thing is that when we get to, when we jump into the quiz, it's going to ask you, and it's going to give you the option to choose a nickname when you join the quiz. Now you can choose your own nickname if you want to, choose your own name as your nickname, and you're welcome to do that, or you can choose some other nickname if you want to. And if you want to do that, feel free to do that, and just when he goes in, just choose a name, and that's okay. I'll refer to you by that name for the rest of the quiz. So think carefully about the name you're going to choose, because as you go through, we're going to see a leaderboard, and the name that comes up on the leaderboard will be the nickname that you chose. Okay, so here's the way this is going to work. So let me go to this next slide, which shows you the instructions. So we're going to use this online tool called Kahoot. And you can see the instructions there that say go to kahoot.it or use the app. You don't need to download the app. If you've already used Kahoot before and you've got the app, fine. But otherwise, just go to kahoot.it and it'll ask you to type in this pin. So that you can do this on your phone if you want to, or you can just open a web browser window. Either way, I find it's convenient to do if you've got your phone handy. You might as well do it on there. In fact, the phone's probably easier to use. Okay, so if you're going to play, go to kahoot.it, type in that pin, and then it'll just ask you to type in a nickname and then to join. Okay, so let's do that. And what I will do is, well, I'll bring up that Kahoot screen so we can see it, so we can start playing it. So good, so there's people who are joining now, and that's great to see. I'm going to give you a few more seconds because we've got quite a few people who are joining. Excellent. Really good. This is going to be fun. Okay, good, good, good. 5, 6, 7. Okay, so we've got about 20 people playing, which is great, which is fantastic. Okay, so that's good to see. All right, so still people joining. All right, last 10 seconds for you to decide whether you're in or out for the fabulous prizes. All right, let's go for it. Okay, so here's the way the Kahoot works. So when we run this in Kahoot, so as I said, there's multiple choice questions. There's 10 questions around learning and development. There's a couple of other little questions that I've got for you as well, which are additional to that, and extra from that. So every question is worth 1,000 points. And there's a time limit. So most of the questions are 20 seconds. A couple of the questions are 30 seconds because I'm giving you a bit of extra time for them. And the way this works is that if you get the question wrong or your time runs out, then you get 0 points for that question. If you get the question right, then you get more points depending on how fast you answered. So if you answered very quickly, you get the 1,000 points, and then the number of points gets lower and lower the longer you wait. So if you think you know the answer, then put the answer in quickly, because you'll get more points for that. Or if you've got no idea of the answer and you're just going to make a guess, you might as well guess fast, right? Because you've got more chance of getting points for the fast. Oh, you get more points if it's a fast guess, even if it happens to be just a guess. Okay, so you get more points for guessing fast. There's no penalty for guessing a wrong answer fast. You just get 0 points anyway if you get the question wrong. Okay, so any questions about that? I want to quickly check in the chat if there's any questions about how this is going to work. Okay, so we've got quite a lot of people who are playing, which is fantastic. All right, let's go for it. So the questions are going to come up on the screen, and if you've got your, so you'll see them on my screen, and you'll be answering the questions on your device. So especially if you've got your phone, it'll come up with these 4 options. Well, it's kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, but there'll be 4 very clear colors for them, which will help you know which button to press. So we're going to start this, and I'm going to start, the first question is kind of a practice question, so it's not to do with learning and development, but all the questions count for points. So I can't set up Kahoot to say that this question doesn't count. So this question does count. It just so happens that it's a practice question just to get us into figuring out how this works, right? So here we go. Okay, here's a question: on which of Captain Cook's 3 Pacific voyages was he killed? So you can see the options and you can see the colors. So yeah, okay, so people have figured this out. So we've got most answers have come in. So if everyone has answered before the time runs out, then we'll just see the answer straight away. Okay, good. Yes, okay, so it is his third. On which of his 3 Pacific voyages was he killed? The third one. I'm hoping that the people who answered one of the others were just having a bit of a joke here, right? Because otherwise, I don't have much confidence in your ability to answer the next 10 or 12 questions. Okay, so this is how it works. So Pri is winning with 922 points because you got the right answer very quickly, and there's the leaderboard. Okay, so let's go to a slightly more relevant question around this. Okay, so the next question is like this survey was done about 2 or 3 months ago, looking at Australians looking at a career change, not just a job change, but a career change post-COVID-19. Yes, it's interesting, right? Like, I actually am pleased that most people got this right. So the stats say that it's 17% of Australians are looking at a career change. And when I first thought that, I thought, phew, it's only 17. It's not 7% or it's not like 70%. But when you think about it, if 17% of Australians, that's 2 million working Australians, are considering a career change, that's got significant impact for you and your organization if you're thinking about, you know, what's our future workforce going to look like. Okay, so that's really significant. By the way, when we get to the end of this, I'll let you have a chat about what some of the implications are for this for you. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Let's jump to the next one. Oh, let's see the leaderboard. Oh, okay. I've seen a quick change to the leaderboard just in that one go. All right, let's see let's keep going. Okay, so this is the majority of talent developers plan to change their programs to include what, according to LinkedIn? Yeah, so it's interesting. So, yeah, so they're looking at Gen Z. So Gen Z are the youngest people entering the workforce now. They're like in their early 20s. They're going to be 35 to 40% of the workforce in the next 10 years' time. So it's a really significant part of our talent, and we're just going to be thinking about them. And already it's good to see that so many talent developers are looking at accommodating that. I think the VR one that many people guess, I think that's going to be significant as well. So I do some work with resource companies here in Western Australia, and many of them are already starting to use VR to train people in these this future dangerous scenarios. You might be out in an offshore oil rig or in a really like a dangerous space, and you can get into virtual reality to train people in that to sort of simulate that sort of environment. Okay, let's do the next one. Let's see the leaderboard. Arani, I hope I got that right. Arani and Emma E. Okay, good, good, good. Let's continue. Yeah, so this is one about artificial intelligence, which is going to be significant, and Gartner is looking at, and what they're saying here is that many people get a lot of their training by on-the-job opportunities. But if you have AI and robotics that are doing some of those routine things, people actually don't get the time to build up those skills with on-the-job learning. So, how much? How much? Yeah, fantastic. Great. Yeah, so they're saying about 50%, right? And that's significant when you think about it. You think that AI is going to be great for efficiency and effectiveness, and all the research says that the future is about humans and machines working together. But one of the downsides of all this efficiency is that some of your people may not have the time to develop the skills that they need because the AI is just going to do it for them. So it's a double-edged sword. Okay, next question. Our leaderboard. Let's see how we're going. Arani. Okay, so it has a bit of a hot streak here with 4 correct answers in a row. I'm curious to see who this is. Arani Duggan. Okay, I don't think we've met. So, yes. Okay, so good. Let's continue. There's still plenty of time for everybody. Okay, so here's one about mid-sized companies, and this is there's some research done in Australia about the best Australian mid-sized companies, in other words, the best performing. How much professional development a year, on average, do they offer for their people? Yeah, so this was surprising when I saw this. They actually offer a significant amount of time for learning and development of their people. And, correlation doesn't mean causation, so it doesn't necessarily mean that that means that they're better. But I think it's an interesting thing to look at, that these are the best mid-sized companies in Australia. So we're not talking about SMEs and we're not talking about large corporates. We're saying if you the best mid-sized companies actually offer more than 3 weeks of training a year for their people. Training, I shouldn't say just training, it's professional development. Okay, I also want to quickly check if there are any chat comments or anything like that. You don't need to, because we'll get the chance to do that afterwards. Okay, let's see whether anyone has, let's see if Farani's still on her streak. Oh, okay, 3 players just dropped their answer streak of 4, but Arani is still in the lead here. Okay. By the way, I should have said this at the start, that some people, when I've run these quizzes before, some people have said to me, are we allowed to use Google? And I always say yes, but I think you probably don't have the time to do that. So absolutely, feel free to use whatever resources you've got, because of course, that's something that we should be doing anyway. Okay, so this is a Gallup research. How many employees strongly agree that that workplace feedback helps them do better work? So this is the only one that is kind of a trick question. Okay, so we all know that feedback is a really powerful tool. And instead of having, say, an annual performance review, you should be having regular feedback with your people. It's really interesting. The research around Gen Z says that the Gen Zs want more feedback, a few times a week with their managers on how they're doing. So they absolutely want that. What the Gallup's research asked, and so I feel a little bit guilty, but not really, about this question. They said, is the feedback that you're getting helping you do better work? And most people said, no, it's not. The reason is not because feedback is bad, it's just that managers and leaders don't know how to deliver effective feedback. So the problem is not feedback, the problem is training in giving good feedback. So at the moment, one of our most powerful tools is just not being applied very effectively in the workplace. Okay, so apologies if you think that was a trick question, but I think it's a really useful insight that you go, feedback's really important, but we can't just say, give feedback and schedule feedback, stick it in your calendar. People need coaching on how to give better feedback, and they need to be trained on doing that. Okay, so Rani is still winning, and I think we're about halfway there, so people still have the opportunity to rise up the board fast. Okay, so here's a little bit just to break the sequence of questions about learning and development. You can see there's a car park here, and the parking bays are numbered according to a specific pattern. And what I'm asking you to do is figure out the pattern, and then you can figure out which is the number of the parking space that that car is parked in. So what's the number that the car is covering? I think I gave you a little bit more time on this one, and we'll see how people went. Yeah, so the number's 87, and so I'm glad to see that quite a lot of people got that. The reason is, if you have a look at the picture here and imagine turning that picture upside down. So Kahoot won't let me do that, but if you imagine turning the picture upside down, I think the answer is really obvious then when we do that. Okay, so that was just a little trick question to see whether I could trip up Irani's winning streak. Oh, Emma's at the top. Okay, fantastic. So, okay, as I said, we've still got time. We've still got a few questions to go. Up 7 places, Pinnacle MS. All right, fantastic. Okay, so the next one, this is the World Economic Forum did some research about the skills and the jobs of the future. They did global research, and they did it around different regions and different countries as well. The Australian figures and skills are pretty similar to the world ones. So this is global, but it applies just as much to Australia. So the question is, like, how much retraining and upskilling per year will employees need to be ready for the future? And by the way, this was pre-pandemic. This was last year, but they were looking ahead for 5 years. Yeah, fantastic. Great. Great to see so many people got that right. So, but that's like 25 days. That's 5 weeks a year that people need for reskilling and retraining to be ready for the future. And that either might mean that they have to be ready for how their job's going to change, or that ready for that their job might be replaced by AI or a robot, or more likely a person using AI. And so you've got to be skilled for new things that are coming up. I'm really pleased to see that this is the first group that has got so many people who've got that answer right. Okay, let's see how we're going. Emma's at the top again, and it's too early to say that Emma's got an unbeatable lead. I don't think that's quite true yet. Okay, 93% of managers feel that they need training on what? Oh, sorry, you can't see that last one's creating employee career paths. Yeah, good. I'm really pleased that so many people got that one right. And I kind of alluded to that earlier, that this idea of coaching and mentoring is such an important part of workplace learning and development. And by the way, so one of the people here in the meeting, Anne Rolfe, is absolutely Australia's leading expert on mentoring. So if you want to know anything about putting a mentoring program into place in your organization, or if you want to know how to improve the mentoring program you've already got in place, you should definitely have a chat with Anne. And if I can ask you sometime in this session, can you just pop in the chat room for everybody. Just however you'd like them to contact you, might be a website or anything. I reckon this is a really useful resource that we get, and I feel privileged that I can connect you to connect people to experts in the field around in this area. So please do that. And so yeah, you said thanks, but please pop in your contact details for people to contact you around mentoring, because it's such an important role and is such a valuable tool that you can do now, particularly because our world's changing so fast. And sorry, I get on my high horse around this, and I get on my hobby horse, sorry, around this. Because the world's changing so fast, when you train people in something, the skills very quickly become obsolete. And that's why mentoring is so valuable, because if you try to put everything into a training program, then first of all, you build a program that might already be obsolete, and then you deliver it, and then the skills soon become obsolete. I'm not against training programs, and I run training programs, I run master classes, but I always encourage people to do mentoring as well and build that in to their ongoing learning and development. Okay, let's see how we're going. Okay, great. Emma and Arani are still at the top. Anne's there as well. Julie Rose has had a streak of 3 correct answers. Okay, so a few more questions to go. So senior management and senior leaders, as a result of the pandemic, what are they asking for from their people, from in a learning and development context, of course? So WFH is working from home skills, soft skills, online learning, or futurism skills. Yes, they're actually asking for people to be better at digital learning. So they're asking their teams, and remember, this is not necessarily asking everybody on the front line, but they're asking HR professionals and L&D teams to really ramp up everything they're doing with digital learning. It's not necessarily saying, by the way, that digital learning is going to replace anything else, but it's allowing you to complement it and supplement it, and the best organizations have already been doing that. The pandemic has just accelerated that. Okay, Emma's there. It might be an unbreakable lead now. Okay, coming back to mentoring. Women worldwide, this is an international survey, said how many women are happy with the mentoring programs provided by their organizations. Yeah, look, I reckon this is one that even if you were guessing, you'd probably guess that the answer was pretty low. So I think the actual answer was 16%. So yes, there's a big lack of support for it through mentoring. And by the way, I should say that it's not only women, so men were 20%. So it's still, women were lower, but it's across the board that, again, this is why I really push the idea of mentoring as something that we should be offering to all our people. And look, we can talk about reverse mentoring as well, and a whole bunch of other ways that you can do mentoring, but don't ask me, ask Anne. Okay, Arani back at the top. All right, a few more questions to go. There's 2 more questions to go. Okay, by next year, 1 in 3 small and medium enterprises, this was an American one, I couldn't find the Australian research in this, what will they be including in their employee training programs? Which of these tools? Artificial intelligence, MOOCs, which are these massive open online courses. There's not just online learning, but there's quite intensive courses where you might be in a room with 10,000 other students around the world, and you get real value from that and the diversity of the mix of people. Robots or VR? Yes, actually VR is the one, and so this is small businesses, right? SMEs thinking of using VR in their training. So I mentioned that I do a lot of work with resource companies. These are huge companies with lots of resources, but even SMEs are starting to use VR. If you're not already using VR, it's such an easy thing to try out. And if you've never experienced it, you can go down to JB Hi-Fi or Harvey Norman and buy a VR headset that you stick your smartphone into, and then get the free VR apps to experience it. If you haven't already done that, I highly recommend that you do. There's not many things that I say are mind-blowing, but when you experience that for the first time, it really opens up possibilities for the future. Okay, Arani is winning by more than 1,000, so I think that Arani, you're going to be the winner here. One last question. and I think this is one that's not learning and development related, but it's kind of related to this time of the year. Okay, so the 12th day of Christmas, how many gifts did my true love give to me on the 12th day? All right, I'm not expecting you to do the whole calculation, but I reckon you probably got some rough guess to figure out the answer. Oh, okay. So not many people got the right answer there. That's really interesting. So remember on the 12th day, you got 12 of these, 11 of these, 10 of these, and add them all up. And if you make a rough guess, like the only number that comes close is 78 gifts. Okay, so that was a bit of a fun one to end with. Maybe not so fun because for people who didn't get the right answer. So Arani, congratulations. Jez was second. And Julie Rose was not that far behind, who came third. But of course, in a session like this, of course, I'm going to say there are no losers in this kind of session. There are only winners. So thank you everyone for taking part. Let me just leave those open for a sec. So Arani, Jez and Julie Rose, can you please contact me? Go to gihanpereira.com. My email address is gihan@gihanpereira.com. And I've got, as I said, I've got these three prizes: Future of Innovation audio CD, the Future of Leadership book, Disruption by Design. Let me know which one you want and give me a postal. Actually, look, I'm going to send all three of them to all three of you. So I'm feeling generous because we're getting close to the end of the year. So just send me a postal address and I'll pop these in the post for you. So congratulations for those three people. And thank you everyone for playing along as well. I think that there's some, I'm interested to know if there were any surprising results, and especially some surprising insights that you think that are going to be relevant for you moving forward as you're thinking about learning and development for your organization for 2021. Or if you're a practitioner, if you're already a trainer, presenter, or coach, what are you thinking of bringing in to your practice for 2021? And given that this is a meeting and rather than a webinar, I want to invite you to, you can absolutely type it in the chat room if you want to, but I'm more than happy for you to turn on your microphone and just share if you'd like to speak up. Okay, so what I'm looking for are things that you like, insights you got that you might take away and use. So when I've run this in the past, I've run this a couple of times recently. So somebody who was a trainer said, I will tell my clients that they have to include mentoring afterwards, and I'll give them a little bit of training on how to do good mentoring or how to do good feedback, with their people. Somebody else actually ran this in person, and they took a photo of the Brent Peterson study and saying that we don't spend enough time pre and post, and said I'm going to include that in all my future proposals and just therefore justify why we should be doing pre-work and doing extensive post-work. So what do you get from it? So the 50% post-learning component from Sally, yeah, absolutely, the implementation part of it, yeah. Nicole says keen to explore VR training. Yeah, so the VR thing, that really surprised me when I saw that. The surprising bit was that it wasn't only the big companies that are doing it, but it's SMEs that are doing that. And Nicola, that so few people benefit from feedback. And again, this is one of those things that I'm passionate about, actually increasing feedback and having more feedback and getting rid of annual performance reviews and replacing it with regular feedback. But people just don't know how to do it well. And some managers and leaders are open to it. And again, I'd say have a chat to Anne about that. I hope you've put your contact details in there, Anne, for people. By the way, just in case you don't know, with Zoom, if you want to save the chat and save all the details and comments, down the bottom where you type in your message, there should be 3 little dots, and you can, maybe you can't save the chat. You may be able to. I thought I'd enabled you to do that. But if you haven't, scroll back and get Anne's details. Okay, so let me just finish off. The last few bits that I had to show you. Some of this, I know we went through the quiz reasonably quickly, and I can see people saying, I'm going to use Kahoot in the future. Absolutely, go there, sign up to kahoot.com. There's a free version. I reckon the paid version, which is the one that you see here, is better. but try the free version first, and then you can figure out how it works and then sign up for a subscription. I've also got a video which I will send to you later, which is the top 10 learning and development trends for 2021, and I'll send that to you. It's got most of the things that we talked about here, but if you'd like to have it as reference for later, then I'll send you a link to that, or you can go to gihanpereira.tv, which is my TV channel if you like, but basically a fancy way of saying there's the videos on my website. And the next presentation that I'm running, so I have a membership site, and it's for leaders, but also these skills presentations go for their team members as well. But the next one, because it's close to the end of the year and people are thinking about goal setting and planning, I'm opening it up to the public. So if you would like to attend that next one, then you can see the link there at the bottom of the screen. I'll put this in the email as well, but also, if you just want to go there and register for that one, I've called it How to Get Things Done When Everyone Keeps Interrupting You. But really, it's about how you figure out what's really important to you and then use that as a way of filtering what really matters when interruptions and things come along. The one last thing before I finish up is to say that there's another program that I've put together. This is an online on-demand program called Better Meetings. This one's not free. This is something that you purchase, because a lot of training and development, a lot of learning happens in small sessions, and this is a way to incorporate little chunks of learning in your regular meetings. So if you're running, say, a regular weekly staff meeting and you'd like to have a little 10-minute, not quite an icebreaker exercise because it's actually a bit more detailed than that, but you'd like to have an exercise that talks about innovation or collaboration or communication and gets people involved, then what I've done is put together these packages. So you get a script, you get some like a reference video to show at your meeting, you get the instructions, the process to run through and how to facilitate a discussion around that. So if you'd like to get that for yourself, you can use that for all your team meetings. So just go to bettermeetings.me and you'll get all the details there. So I hope you found that useful, and I hope you found, well, two things. I hope you really enjoyed the content, but I also want to give you an experience of the Kahoot tool, because I think that's a really valuable thing that you can do for both discovery and experience. And it's a simple, it's not a really high-tech tool like getting everyone to use VR headsets in this complex scenario. It's a really simple thing that you can do just to elevate the learning and development in your organization. If you'd like to engage with me to talk more about learning and development, if you want me to run some masterclasses for your team, I'm happy to do that. It's, as you probably guessed by now, it's something that I'm passionate about, and I'd love to work with you around that. So again, all my details at gihanpereira.com. So please get in touch. And in the meantime, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the future. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.